And I'm hoping this transition into 2024 is moving ahead with grace and delight, and that you are taking some time to reflect upon what you want to claim, what you're yes to, and also what are you releasing and letting go, what's no longer serving. It's a really cool and powerful reflective period. And I'm often asked about, my view of what's to come on a more collective level around humanity, the world. I tend not to share that much, but I will share a little today. Before I do, I'll just say on a personal and professional level, I'm super excited to kick off this year with our Awakened Living project. It's happening very, very soon. It was only launched a few weeks ago. It was a last minute thing, but summer has arrived and we are about to start on Friday with a men's retreat that I'm leading and a women's retreat that she's leading. And on the theme of slowing down and deeply connecting to the parasympathetic nervous system, where we can get regulated and release stress, tension, trauma, but from a really restful way that is deeply honoring of the healing process. So the Awakened Living project is happening, it's starting, and then we move into the second part of our project on Monday the 8th of January, where for 5 days we have a live-in community experience experiment where we're bringing this concept of slowing down, circle work, meditation, eating right, living and breathing a more slowed down existence, and bringing that into practice, before ending with a weekend Thriving in Tribe Circle Emergent Retreat that I will be leading. It's going to be great. And if any of you are still wanting to join us, there's still spaces in the women's retreat and in the community living experience. I think we've got maybe 2 spaces left in the Thriving in Tribe weekend at the end there. So we're almost sold out. I think the men's retreat is almost sold out as well. We may have 1 or 2 spaces. So this is the last and final call to action. I know it's coming up soon. It's happening this weekend and next week. But if you're feeling a call to begin this new year, 2024, in the right intention and to create some really beautiful new practices and habits to journey in a way that is really honoring to your body, to your pace, to your rhythm, to your healing, then I think this could be just an incredible opportunity. And Summer and I are excited to serve you and also experience it with you, So it's a culture that we can receive from as well. So with that said, by the way, sorry, just on a logistical level, if you're interested in learning more about this Awakened Living project, just go to neweden.org/ALP. That's short for the Awakened Living project. So www.neweden.org/ALP. Cool. Now, I've spoken about this before, but I just wanted to reference it. I'm a big fan of Star Trek. One of the things that I love about Star Trek is its moral and ethical stance around the world. It portrays a future in part that I really love and agree on. I say in part because there's aspects that I would kind of like go, I'm not sure if that's the future I would want, but there are certain elements of it that are in fact really, really inspiring. So it does portray, I would say, an ultra positive utopian view of what the future could be like. And for those who don't know, Star Trek is about 300 years ahead from where we are right now. I mean, there are different seasons that talk about different areas of the Star Trek universe, but we're talking hundreds of years into the future. And I grew up on The Next Generation. This is a season of Star Trek where the captain of a starship, Jean-Luc Picard, takes his crew and go on adventures, trekking around the universe as explorers. meeting new alien races, learning, growing, expanding, being tested, and often the episodes revolve around complex social, humanitarian, ethical, moral issues. And you could see what a potentially evolved humanity 300 years in the future, how they meet those moments. Now, they live in a technologically advanced culture, of course. So in the Star Trek universe in the future, money no longer exists. And the reason money no longer exists is because of several reasons. But what is often missed with people watching that is that technology has reached a certain point where they can convert energy into matter and matter into energy. And what that basically means is things that people may need, like a cup of coffee, food, things to build a house, they can be materialized through a simple request to a computer. So you could literally speak to the computer on the wall and say, computer, make me an Earl Grey tea hot. And there and then it literally manifests. It converts energy into physical form and matter. And you can take the cup of tea and drink it. Now, so you can imagine in a world where anyone at any time can just talk to a panel on the wall and ask for anything that they need, and it becomes real. Then you can imagine that on a larger scale, you can build homes, houses, transport, infrastructure. You can begin to see that the use of money as an effective means of trading for the things that we need to survive is not going to be necessary. So technology is one aspect of what allows a society to evolve beyond money in this Star Trek universe. And there are other parts as well. Aspects around unification is another part of it. Often the history of money comes through the trading of cultures that were separate countries having their own currencies, having their own goods of value, exporting things that they have a surplus of and importing things that they have a deficiency in. And that's the kind of economic wheel that drives trade. It's like you have something I need, I have something you need, and then we need a currency in order to exchange value so we understand that we're getting value for money, and that's how we can then move our lives forward and enhance them. But in the Star Trek universe, there is no us and them because there is a unified humanity or a unified Earth. Now that's quite a utopian idea too, where there are no borders, there are no blocks in terms of language as well, because they have what's called universal translators, where they can literally understand in real time everyone, no matter what language they speak, which is just absolutely amazing. Now, I think we're heading there. You know, with the advance of AI, we are getting closer and closer to the universal translator. With quantum computing, we are getting closer and closer to an artificial intelligence that can actually potentially replace a lot of what humans would do. And so there's a lot of fear around that. But I have actually a lot of hope. I'm a pro-technologist. I don't think that's even a word. But when, you know, there are people who are like anti-technology and more into let's just go back into nature and do it the way we used to do it. Because the way we're going with technology is scary and it might replace us. We may become merged with the machine and end up hybrid robots or something. Or the robots will take over and do something really bad and end humanity. I'm not in that camp. I love nature and I love reconnecting to our essential nature and coming into ancient wisdom and honoring the energetic, emotional, spiritual wisdom that is contained within our DNA and gets activated in collective spaces like in Circle. These are ancient practices, from my opinion. And yet, I love to blend that and integrate that part of my world with the world of, for example, technology, the advancement of AI, quantum computing, CRISPR genetic engineering. These are incredible technologies that deserve celebration and deep understanding. And yeah, probably regulation too, so that it doesn't go into hands where it potentially becomes dangerous. But these technologies have the potential to create solutions to problems that are plaguing the world today. And I'll go back to that, but just to come back and complete the Star Trek piece here. So there's a unified Earth. And because there's a unified Earth and there is a global system of resource management, they have what's best described as a resource-based economy. You can read more about that under the Venus Project if you want to see how that could actually apply in our world, not in the science fiction world, but in from a scientific engineering standpoint around how that could actually be done and how AI is an essential component to a resource-based economy. Because in a resource-based economy, the basic principle is no one owns really anything, which sounds a bit communist, but it's not actually that. That gets easily misunderstood. It's more like nobody owns anything because everybody owns everything. And that's the part that's missed a lot. And what that means is every natural resource of the earth is the common heritage of all of man and womankind. That no one country, state, person, company has the right to possess, control, and exploit natural resource. That is something that we all have a common access to. But common access then needs a system of distribution that is fair. And in a resource-based economy, that is put into the hands of a sophisticated AI, not humans, because humans are easily corruptible, they're easily biased, and they are, because of our animal nature, can bring in division and separation in the distribution of resources. Whereas an AI could manage the complex task of distribution with a lot more compassion, ease, fairness, and justice. So the combination of technology and AI combined with a consciousness, for example, of a resource-based economy is what allowed for Star Trek's kind of possibility for this type of moneyless society, where as soon as the money is no longer the reason that people get up in the morning, a different question sponsors the existence of every human being. It's not, what do I need to do to survive, or how do I get rich or powerful, and how do I get to earn more and be successful? The question is, how do I thrive? What do I do to make myself better? How can I improve the situation of not only my life, but all those whose life I touch? Spiritual meaning becomes more important than material meaning when material access is instant and available whenever you want. So, and this is a really inspiring future, right? It's like when our needs are met, we don't become greedy, we actually become selfless, and we actually want to serve and grow and become better. Now, you might not believe that that's actually part of the human condition. I happen to believe that it is buried beneath a story of deep separation, confusion, and forgetting. Perpetuated by things like religion and civilizations that are built on this great forgetting of a disconnect from ancient wisdom, technology, connection, tribe, and community. There's a lot of things that are lost, but they can be found. But they can also blend with the beautiful fruits of the emerging technology today that can bring us into a utopia. This is something I'm super excited about, and it's happening quicker than we think. There's this thing called a singularity. A singularity is the moment where computers and AI reach a level of intelligence that far outpaces all of humanity combined, and we can't in that moment control where it goes. In that moment of the singularity, we don't know what exists beyond it because we can't turn it off and we can't direct it anymore. It's beyond the really influence of us, because we are now less intelligent than it. It calls the shots. Nobody really knows what goes on beyond the singularity. Is it benign and benevolent? Is it harmful and malicious? Nobody really knows. And some people are like, we shouldn't find out. But it's coming. They think the singularity could be here as early as 2025, next year now, right? That we create a computer system that is so advanced that it has a runaway intelligence beyond all of humanity put together. That's simultaneously terrifying and exciting at the same time. But it means things can move very, very quickly, very, very quickly, from despair to wonder, and the other direction too, from the norms that we experience day to day as we take for granted, into something that could be dystopian. We just don't know. And yeah, it's just a very exciting time to be alive, for sure. Now, with this Star Trek future, there's something also that the casual viewer won't know unless they go into the history of Star Trek. So there is a journey that Earth took. Now, I'm talking about the science fiction history, right? This isn't what actually happened. This is just the story behind the whole philosophy of Star Trek. In the Star Trek universe, unification of Earth and the dissolving of borders and countries and language and religion only took place after horrific turmoil. There were the eugenics wars, where genetic engineering went out of control. They produced a super race that turned against humanity, almost destroying humanity. There was a Third World War, a nuclear holocaust of unparalleled proportions, where chaos of the old system basically created a massive downfall, a breakdown, and out of the ashes, a new Earth was born. The saying that Neale Donald Walsch often shares in his books, sometimes things have to fall apart before they fall together. Well, in the Star Trek universe, things really went dark. They fell apart, and what we see is the future that was created out of the ashes of that falling apart. And it was an essential part of the history that allowed for a utopian Star Trek universe to even exist. And I think we're going through something similar. I mean, there is war happening. There is a heating up, not just physically in terms of climate change, but it feels like there's a chaotic, turbulent energy that's been rising for years now, especially through the pandemic. That may not be over either. I don't mean just with COVID, with what is at the source of that and what may come next from that. We really have no idea, but this period of time of chaos and deep unsettledness, division is growing. I mean, as an English guy living in Holland, the thought that, for example, the UK could leave a united Europe and want to go alone, whatever the political, financial reasons, the act of nationalizing the energy of coming into like national identity as being more important than unity is just so outrageously off in terms of where we're going. It's temporary in the sense of like humanity can't survive through that level of separation. But it was like things like that, and then in the US with the division and the politics of all of that, it's everywhere that these things are emerging. Even in Holland now, there's a new kind of leader that's coming through that is more national identified. Because in times of chaos and fear, we tend to elect and get attracted to those types of leaders that make us feel safe and say, it's us against them and we're going to do it and we're going to be okay and we're going to protect you. And it becomes very much a more tribalism type of way of life. In other words, we move away from unity. We've been moving away from unity, but in the short term. But long term, if we look at the long, like 100 or 1,000-year game, we're totally where we're meant to be. We're totally getting there. And we're totally in line with things are falling apart before they fall together. And they are nowhere near done yet falling apart. We may not have even scratched the surface. Now, that's not meant to scare you, but it's meant to bring awareness to the fact that, well, it gives reason, I should say, to why I'm prioritizing places like New Eden, building community, creating tribe, and feeling the sense of renewal and safety and protection and evolution and profound homecoming that tribe can afford and brings us. Like, there were people that had the most horrific time in lockdown during COVID, whereas COVID here at New Eden was one of the most sacred, most beautiful, and most delightful heaven on earth type experiences, because we gathered in community. The retreat center turned into a community center. And for those few years, we lived together. Yeah, it wasn't always easy. We had conflicts and we had stuff going on, but we used it as a time to practice bringing hard IQ in everyday life into form. And 20 people lived in the house and coexisted at a time when others were alone. And I feel devastated that people were left alone, and the mental health implications of lockdowns and all that other crazy shit. And yet what we proved at New Eden was that another way is possible when times of chaos are at their height, which is why things like this Awakened Living Project are so important, because these are seeds of ways that we want to make this a more regular reality, that this becomes something that we can plan for and prepare for now. Like, if you knew that something big was going to happen, say, at the end of next year or 2026, what would you do now to prepare for that? Would you just bunker down and get a bunch of food and build a cellar underneath your house? Do you really think that's what's needed, is for you to just take care of yourself in isolation and just get some supplies? I think tribe and community, for example, is a more important aspect of that. Because if nothing happens, tribe is still essential for the most glorious life of interconnection, interdependence, and collective well-being. So whether the times are good or bad, tribe is there to bring us exactly what we need and to meet us in ways that we can't be met alone or even one-to-one in a small nuclear family household. How are kids going to be protected in a us versus them kind of culture? Are you living in a place where you can really trust your neighbors and be one and unified in times of crisis, where people aren't all just out for themselves? And things like that. So this is not about fear-based living. It's just becoming aware of like what could be as we continue to navigate these times of chaos and turmoil, knowing that it hasn't ended and it's likely to get worse before it gets better. And that's just something to take into realistic account, rather than living in cloud cuckoo land with a head buried deep into the sand, thinking that new age wisdom can sometimes just be the rhetoric that we tell ourselves everything's going to be okay and that I'm protected because I'm being looked after. No, we also need inspired action built on an intuitive sense of what's real, and to take that action seriously and to follow the messages and signs that are all around us. So I am a hell yes to creating a life on Earth like in Star Trek. I'm also surrendered to the fact that collectively we're exactly where we need to be right now, and things will fall apart before they fall together. And I want to be ready and prepared for that, and I want to be part of the rebuilding. I want to be part of the recreation and the new imprint. And I'd love for you to be part of that too. So that's my New Year's message to you. I hope it lands well. And I'd love to see you next week at our Awakened Living Project as we put all of this into action and we make it a real thing. All right, guys, take care.